Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at Sunday, Game 3, back in Dallas now for this Western Conference Finals. It is Saturday night in the middle of this Celtics and Pacers Game 3 as well. Looks like it's going to be a good one down to the wire after the Pacers were blowing them out a little bit in the second and third quarters. We'll take a look at how we did in that one during the live stream tomorrow, as we're doing every day here moving forward. 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday for this game that starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern in the West. I got 5 best bets in there for this one. Let's get into it. Gave this out in the Discord nice and early, so do jump in there if you are interested in getting this stuff when you still have the same numbers that I'm using as soon as I bet on it. First bet is Luka Doncic, over 6.5 points in the first quarter. This is minus 102 on FanDuel, so we're putting a full unit on it. This feels disrespectful, for lack of a better word, honestly. We're talking about 8.9 points per game for Luka, so basically 9 a game in the first quarter, over in 11 of 14. That's during the playoffs here, right? Averaging 10 minutes in these games, 6.5 field goal attempts, 3 threes that he's averaging as well, plus getting to the line twice per first quarter so far in the postseason. Against the Wolves, he's gone over in 3 of 4 versus them this season. The only game that he didn't was in Game 1 of this series, and we're going to just give that a little bit of a pass because Kyrie, for the first time in the entire playoffs, decided that he was going to go off in the first quarter. And to be fair, I think there's a legitimate reason for it. Ant Edwards called him out before the series started, saying he wanted Kyrie, give me Kyrie, I'm gonna lock up Kyrie, etc. And that did not happen in Game 1. In fact, not only did he not lock up Kyrie, chasing him around the whole court made him pretty tired. Then Kyrie reverted back to his Kyrie ways in the other game, as he only averaged 1.8 points per game in the first quarter in the playoffs outside of that last game. That was the main reason Luka didn't go off. He got fewer shots, played up at the same about 10 minutes in that quarter, but Kyrie did all the work, right? And Luka still had an opportunity to get there. A couple of those little bunnies rolled in and out for him in that first quarter in Game 1. So I'm not really scared of it. I'm coming back to it. This should be at least 7.5, if not 8.5, to be honest. So we'll take it for basically even money for a full unit. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're going right back to Derek Lively, the Rook. It only went up 1 point here for his points, rebounds, and assists combined. So we're going over 17.5 tonight for Sunday night, rather. PRA minus 105 on FanDuel, going for a full unit on that as well. Just kind of rinse, recycle, repeat, man. I mean, he has been a problem for this Minnesota Timberwolves team in the first 2 games and really seriously picked it up in the last 4 or 5 games so far in this postseason. And he's had a really good postseason in general. He's had 1 assist at least in 12 of the 14 playoff games, had 2 or 3 in the last one, now averaging about 2 or 3 in this series alone. He's gone over this number in 8 of 10 as long as he gets 20-plus minutes. And guess what? He's getting the bulk of the minutes between he and Daniel Gafford now, 26 per game in the first 2. Seems like that rotation is pretty solid and dependable between Gafford and Lively. Gafford plays 22 minutes, Lively plays 26 minutes. Call it a day. That adds up to 48. They never really touch the floor together at the same time. So it's really just a matter of knowing what they're each going to get now. And we do. J-Kidd has made that rotation pretty clear to us. In the last 4 games, as I was mentioning, since he really picked things up and started to get 25-plus minutes in each of these last 4, 18 rebound chances per game, 11.3 boards per game. So I still like the rebounds a lot. It's a big reason for this. But he's also just catching lobs, same as Daniel Gafford. It's like they don't need that many field goal attempts to get their points in general because they're just all dunks, essentially, right? So we know it's going to be high percentage shots for both Lively and for Gafford. So I like adding the points in here, and I like adding the assists as well because a lot of what we've seen from his dimes is he's too quick for Gobert. So he goes and gets a rebound running to the rim around Gobert, right? From there, not necessarily the offensive game to go back up with it or put a few moves together in the post to get around the defensive player of the year, but he is plenty good at finding cutters and guys out on the three-point line on those second chance points plays. So it's a really good look here when you can get assists for a big man that you know is going to get boards and you know is probably going to be kicking out those boards for an assist rather than points. So I like all 3 of these here in the combo for over 17.5 PRA for the Rook D Lively. But that doesn't mean that we can't go with Daniel Gafford as well. And for Gafford, I've kind of liked the points more than anything consistently. This also feels a little bit disrespectful. The man just had 16 in Game 2, and now we're coming back to him 7.5 points over that, minus 130 on FanDuel for a full unit. He has gone over in all 10 games this playoffs when he has 19-plus minutes played, and he's also gone over 10 in a row in general. He's shooting 7.5 field goals a game, making 4.5 of them. That's pretty easy math right there, where it's like, even if he doesn't get any free throws, we're still looking at about 9 points per game for this man based on the amount of shots that he's taking And he's made more than the 4.5 field goals a number of times at this point because, once again, he's simply just getting lobs at the rim, a couple putbacks here and there off of offensive boards. Bob's your uncle. We should be good at 8 points. If you look at where he's scoring the majority of his points from, it's either on drives to the rim or on the pick and roll, right? And both of those kind of oftentimes get calculated similarly on stats pages, you'll see. So 6.3 points per game just on the pick and roll alone, not even including, like I said, the other points that can come from free throws or these putback dunks on the offensive boards. So let's just go back to what's been working, which is Gafford over 7.5 points. Probably going to see this at 8.5 by the time it comes around here on Sunday for some of you. Hopefully you can get to this video a bit early and get the 7.5. Before you run for the hills, because I'm betting over on Karl Anthony Towns, 19.5 points. We're getting -110 on DK for that. Hear me out. Home versus away splits are crazy. And I try not to just predicate bets on this dude does well at home and they're playing at home, or he plays well away and they're away, right? It's not the only thing, but we're going on 3 months of this stuff with Karl Anthony Towns not being able to score at home and lighting it up on the road. Plus 2 bad games in a row for Cat. I really like him to take it to this Mavs team here in game 3 and try his, not just try his best on offense, but be super aggressive the way that he has been. But maybe he's a few more shots made are in line for him, because if you look at the volume, it's been there. If he maintains that volume, his percentages go way up when he's on the road. It's absolutely insane. Shooting 54% from the field when he's away from home, shooting 34% from the field when he's at home. And same concept for the threes, like 27% from 3 at home since February, where he has not gone over 19.5 points at home since the 24th of February against Poo-Poo Brooklyn. So not really worried about that. At this point, it's like if he's just going to keep taking the same shots, but the percentage is almost double when he's on the road versus at home, then I'm going to go for it, man. And part of this positive regression that I'm expecting from him is from 3, where he's gone 3 for 14 from deep in this series so far. So if you look at his averages, he's a much better than what, 15, 20% shooter from deep. So I think he's pretty good to at least come back to the norm for himself. All he needs to shoot is about 38, 40% from deep, which is something he's done multiple times, and we should be good to go. The other thing is the Naz Reid stuff. Naz Reid came in and just completely took his minutes without Cat even really being in foul trouble, which is usually what you worry about when you take a Cat over, is this dude's going to get into foul trouble, right? But now it was actually Naz Reid just going the hell off in game 2. What, he makes 7 threes in that game, right? So I don't know that you want to bank on Naz doing that consistently. I do think Naz is still a pretty good bet for over on his points. I won't lie to you. But I do think Cat will keep him off the floor a bit more by making his shots as well. And then they won't have to choose between going for the hot hand or the actual better talent, which is allegedly Cat. So I'm going to still bank on him getting about 32 minutes in this game as opposed to the like 25 that he played in game 2, which should get us over 19.5 points in this one. And one more over. We're going with slow-mo. Kyle Anderson, over 9.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Best number here is -120 on Bet365. Going for a full unit on that one. For slow-mo, I actually laughed in game 1 pregame when I was watching it, and Draymond Green said that slow-mo Anderson was going to be one of the if not the biggest X factor for Minnesota. He had to play really well for this team to win. Guess what? I was wrong on that, to be honest. I didn't necessarily think Draymond was speaking out of turn, but I didn't think it was as important as he was making it out to be. And now it seems like the Minnesota Timberwolves coaching staff agrees with Draymond that slow-mo needs to be in there. And it makes sense at this point because he is their Swiss Army knife on defense. And most importantly, he's able to come in, guard Luka, give Jaden McDaniels a break, give Ant a break on defense, and guard a couple of different guys, including some bigs if he needs to, like Gafford and company as well, right? So his defensive prowess is keeping him on the court. His offensive abilities are just being ignored, basically, by the Mavs. They're sort of just letting him waltz into the lane and getting his, because he's also a threat to assist. That's why I like all 3 of these props. He had 5 assists and 5 boards in this last game in 20 minutes, and his minutes went up 3 in game 2 versus game 1. Seems like a good idea, to be honest, because he's been very, very useful on both ends of the floor, creating problems and making the right pass. Honestly, he kind of enters that adult in the room conversation as sort of the label that we can give him because of his veteran status, and he doesn't really get rattled in these games. So he should be on the floor for another 20 minutes. If that's the case, I do like him to continue around his averages where he's at 9 points alone. You throw in 3.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, right? We should be at about 10 to 15 is what I project him at. So I really like the opportunity for Slow-Mo to get his minutes and this over 9.5 PRA. And that is all the time that I have for you guys in this one. Make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Definitely want to make sure you're getting these videos as they come out at night. Also want to hit up that Discord if you're not yet in there. Link is in the description of the video. Getting a lot of good looks in there from the fact that we've got some pretty smart bettors up in that Discord right now, giving me some looks to look at here and helping me find stuff. And then hopefully I'm helping you guys out just as much. And you get these bets a little bit early, so you make sure you don't miss out on the odds and the lines that I'm playing as soon as I play them. Last thing is that live stream Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, a couple hours before tip of that Game 3 in the Western Conference that we just went over. So bring your bets, jump in the comments, and until I see you then, happy betting.